In today's video, we're going to talk about the 5 things that we would change about the Audi Q5 to make it a better vehicle. Now, if you watched my last upload, we talked about the 5 things that we liked most about the Audi Q5, and so it was only fitting for this video to go ahead and talk about some of the things that Audi could have done better. Now, I want to point out, first of all, this is my personal vehicle, and it's one of 17 vehicles that I've owned in my life. And this is my favorite vehicle that I've had. And so this video is in no way intended to bash the Audi Q5 or say that it's not an excellent vehicle, because it is. But with any vehicle, there's always room for improvement. And so these are the 5 things that I would change to make this a better car. So the first thing that I'm not crazy about in the Audi Q5 is that it's a little bit jerky. And what I mean by that is you kind of feel like the car is either kind of shifting back and forth from side to side as well as from front to back. It kind of feels like it's not a real smooth transition from stopped to moving or from moving to coasting. And so it kind of throws you forward when you take your foot off that gas pedal, and then when you're accelerating it kind of throws you back. It's pretty hard to make it a really smooth drive. Likewise, you get that a little bit from side to side where sometimes you feel like the car is kind of shifting its weight back and forth. I think that part of what contributes to that is this Q5 is a sport model, or it's got the sport package, and so it's got a stiffer suspension and it's got 20-inch wheels with pretty low profile tires, and so I think that that's to credit for some of that effect that you're getting. And then the other piece of it is that it's got a pretty short wheelbase, and so I think that because of that short wheelbase, that you can feel a lot more of the road kind of transmitting through the suspension. And so that's the first thing that I don't really like about the Q5. So the second thing that I'd change about the Audi Q5 is that the fan blower for the heat and the air conditioning is not powerful enough. And just to give you a demonstration of that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to turn it up on full volume, and we're going to direct 100% of the air to these vents coming out at your chest. And so if we push this button here, you can see we're getting direct air on the chest of the driver and the passenger seat. So it's blowing maximum capacity right now. Now we've got a high-tech test here. We've got a candy wrapper, or a granola bar wrapper. We're gonna put that in front of the vent just to show you how little flutter we get from the wrapper being in front of that vent. Almost nothing. You get a little bit from that piece there, but a lot less than you would expect with full volume coming out of those vents. And so the effect of that is that if you're a passenger in the back of the vehicle, it takes quite a bit of time for that air to get to the back and warm up the passengers. And likewise, if you're sitting or if you come back and it's really cold outside and you want to warm up quick, the Q5 is not the best vehicle on the market for warming up quickly. Obviously, once you know, you warm the cabin, you've got your heated seats, you can get to that point where you're warm, but it takes a lot longer than most vehicles. And so that's the second thing that I'd change, is putting in a more powerful fan blower. So item 3 on the list, you guys knew it was coming, and that is the high cost of maintenance and repairs on the Q5. Now I want to specify that I wouldn't consider the Q5 to be an unreliable vehicle. Quite the opposite, it's actually quite reliable, and my experience with Audis is that they've been fairly reliable. The difference with an Audi and with the Q5 is that when it does come time to do repairs, they're very pricey. Now, interestingly enough, Consumer Reports in their latest issue actually came out and said that the Audi Q7 was their highest rated SUV for predicted reliability on the market. Kind of supports my argument that they're actually pretty reliable vehicles. But again, it doesn't account for the fact that when something does go wrong on one of those Q7s, like the Q5, it's going to be very expensive. And so, you know, that's something to keep in mind with this type of vehicle. Along with that, maintenance is very expensive. And so if you take it in to get regular maintenance done, oil changes, you're going to pay a significant premium on the Q5 compared to other models that are out there. Given the fact that an Audi is a premium vehicle, it shouldn't be any surprise that the cost of maintenance and repairs is pretty significant. If you buy a $50,000 car brand new, that means all the parts on the vehicle are expensive as well. And so even though I bought this as a used vehicle for under $30,000, I'm still buying a car that was a $50,000 car when it was new. And so when things break, they're going to be priced accordingly. So in summary, that's the third thing that I would change about the Audi Q5, or I guess the gripe that I have is that they are expensive to work on, both for maintenance and repairs. So I already alluded to item number 4 when I was talking about item number 3. I mentioned that I bought this Q5 for under $30,000 and that it was originally almost $50,000. Now I bought it with about 60,000 miles after only a couple of years of use, and so if you put that together, that'll lead you to item number 4, which is that Audis have pretty poor resale value. And unfortunately, it's the nature of most luxury vehicles. Even if you look at brands like Lexus and Acura, which have a better reputation for reliability, you're still going to see pretty significant loss in value in those first few years of ownership compared to similar non-premium models. And so unfortunately, that means if you go out and you buy a new Audi Q5, you're going to take a pretty significant hit during those first few years. And so my first recommendation would be to buy a used Q5 if you're in the market for one. Avoid the temptation to buy a new one. And so in summary, the fourth thing that I'm not crazy about with the Audi Q5 is the significant hit that you'll take in resale value. So I mentioned at the beginning of the video that I actually really love this vehicle, and it was honestly hard to come up with 5 items that I didn't like about the Q5. And so some of you aren't going to be crazy about item number 5, but it is something that really bothers me about the car. And that is that the visor clips are not very good. And so you can see up here that our visor clip broke off. Now, my wife broke this clip off pretty soon after we purchased the vehicle. And my gut instinct at the beginning is that she was careless and it was more her issue and not so much the car. Unfortunately, I said something too quickly and gave her a hard time about that. And shortly thereafter, I broke the one on the passenger side. And so both clips are broken. I'd be really curious to know if the original owner of the vehicle ever had any issues with that, given that I've never broken a visor clip on any vehicle that I've ever owned. And within the first few months of ownership in the Q5, we break both of them. 2 different people breaking them. And so, in general, the Q5 has great quality materials. I just mentioned that, and now this obviously wouldn't indicate that. And that's because everything else in the car has been flawless. But these visor clips really bothers me that they broke that easily. And in another video where I mentioned that issue, one of my subscribers actually made a comment about how they had a similar issue and that it was a pretty common issue on these vehicles. And so that's item number 5 that I would change about the Q5 is give us some better visor clips. It's so annoying having this visor just sitting there kind of dangling. So those are the 5 things that I would change about the Audi Q5. And as I mentioned at the beginning, overall, I still think that the Audi Q5 is an excellent vehicle. I wouldn't have any hesitation to buy it again, and there'd be no reason that I wouldn't recommend it to somebody else. But there are things that could be done to make the Audi Q5 a little bit better vehicle. Just to summarize real quickly, the first item that we talked about is that it has a tendency to be a little bit jerky, and so kind of lurches forward and backward and shakes from side to side, something that could be refined to make it a little bit nicer. The second item that we talked about is that the fan blower isn't really that powerful, and it'd be nice if it had a little bit more ability to blow air at a higher rate than it does. The third issue that we talked about is that maintenance and repairs on the Audi Q5 are pretty expensive, and there's something that you should be aware of before you make the jump into getting an Audi Q5. The fourth thing that we talked about is that the resale value on the Audi Q5 is not very good. If you buy a Q5, you can expect that you're going to take a pretty significant loss in value during the time that you own it, up until the time that you sell it. The fifth item that we talked about is a very small issue, but it's an issue nonetheless, and that's that the visor clips in the Audi Q5 could use some work. For more videos of the Audi Q5, subscribe to my channel. I'd love to get your feedback, questions, comments. I'd love to know what you think are the things that could be improved about the Audi Q5 if I didn't cover them. If there are videos that you'd like to see about the Audi Q5, leave those in the comments below. For more videos of the Q5, subscribe to my channel. In the meantime, thanks for watching.